There we go. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Town Hall 1-year birthday show. Applause, please. Yay! While it's not the exact day of our 1-year birthday, March is in fact, March 2020 was our very first town hall. So it's almost nearly the 1-year anniversary of Builder Town Hall. So we're considering this our 1-year birthday show. More applause, please. Yay. So we are so excited that in fact, we have been able to maintain this Zoom event for a year, that we've got some really special prizes for those of you that decided to join us live today. So good for you. So our awesome rock star panelists, Angela, Kerry, and Matt, and their companies, Group 2, Kerry & Co., and a new go, parent company of Rendering House, have contributed some really awesome prizes today to give out to those of you who joined us live. So this is why you've got to show up live. Those of you watching the recording are not going to get this opportunity. So we've got some really great gift cards that we're going to be sharing throughout the show, but it's going to be for those of you that participate. But we're not just talking about like silly, fun. I mean, we love it when you're fun in the comments, of course, but for those of you that are sharing insightful, thought-provoking comments, sharing knowledge, asking great questions, just really participating in our content today, we've got some good prizes for you as a courtesy from our sponsors. Now, Angela will be the one delivering those. So if you are the lucky recipient today, then you're going to want to contact Angela and give her your contact information so that she can get in touch with you. Okay, I also want to make sure that you have our next event on your calendar, which is April 6th. So remember, Builder Town Hall is always on the first Tuesday of the month. Now, we've been at this for a year, and we've always been at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I have noticed a decrease in our attendance, and I'm wondering if it's the time slot. So I want to throw out to you, and I'd like you to light up chat right now. Would you prefer if it was at noon on Tuesdays versus 4 p.m. on Tuesdays? I'll also be sending out an email survey as well as posting this on Facebook. So today won't be our final answer. I'm polling you all that are here live, and I'll also be putting it out on Facebook, and email will tally up and we'll kind of see what we get. It may turn out to be that the answer is just simply, you are so busy selling so many homes that I can make it any time of day, and there are just Tuesdays you can't do it. It doesn't matter what time of day I were to host it. And that's why our numbers have declined some live. We still get hundreds, if not thousands of you that watch it recorded, but live we're down a little bit. So I'm wondering if it's the time slot or just that you're busy. So light up chat and we'll take a look at the chat transcripts. Tell me, would noon Eastern be better, or is 4 o'clock fine, or it doesn't matter, I'm just too busy some Tuesdays. But we will definitely be on for April 6th. So mark that, and I'll let you know if we'll keep our time or if we'll move our time. Okay, so that gets us to today's topic. Woo! And let me tell you, we had so many people register for this. It was insane. And so I know the recording is going to go out to thousands of you, because I mean, and also we had so many people write in their questions. So here's what we're going to do for today. If you have a question, a very specific question for our panelists during the panel interviews, I want you to use your Q&A button on the Zoom toolbar. If you want to just chat, with other attendees, make comments, give your own insights, participate in the conversation, please use the chat box for that. And we want that. We encourage you. If you want to talk to me while the interviews are going, do that in the chat. But if you have a question for the panelists, use the Q&A. I'll be monitoring that and feeding them the questions as we go. So today's topic is take a number. And we're going to be addressing this idea of capping sales. Do you use wait lists? Do you use lotteries? Do you limit how many per month? Do you do nothing? And I think we're going to find that the answers really vary per builder, and perhaps there might not even be one golden answer. But let's just find out what our 3 sample builders have to say, and maybe we'll find some commonalities in their approaches, and maybe we won't. I did some digging to give you just some basic stats. And while I'm doing that, our first interview is probably going to come up on the screen, Matt and Brooke, and that's all right. We'll let them do that. But Zonda's got some new research that I do want to share with you. And I found this really interesting, Matt and Brooke, in their monthly builder survey that just came out, 52% of builders reported taking only a specific number of contracts per month, 52%. So we're at half of all builders taking only a specific number of contract sales per month, up from 35% in November. So we've gone from 35% in November to 52% in February. These are February numbers, so very recent numbers. We're at 96% reported raising base prices in mid-February. 96% raising base prices in mid-February compared with January, the highest rate in 7 months. When asked how much they'd raise base prices, 37% reported raising prices by $5,000, while 1/5 said they'd raise prices by more than $10,000. Now, I'm updating constantly for clients, updating digital banners and things, 200,000. I mean, I don't know where this 5,000 came from. I mean, we're in Dallas, Texas. We've been updating like 200,000, a lot more than 5. But okay, so there's definitely a lot of capping sales, raising prices, basically what I would call throttling of the sales pace, the construction pace happening. So that's where the topic for today came from. I know we've got a lot of Q&A and chat already happening. I'm going to get out of the way for our first Rock Star panelist and his very special guest. Here's Matt Riley of Group 2 and Brooke Carroll of Homes by Dickerson.
Thank you, Meredith. And that's really interesting. That's a great article that you were sharing. And I think too, there's mixed reasons for why people could be, or why builders could be capping sales. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But, sales are a byproduct of that, or, a reason for that cap. However, sometimes that cap is simply because we can't get our pricing locked in, right? Like we don't know how much our frame package is going to cost. So we're like, whoa, we can't take any orders because we have no idea how we can't honor this price, right? And so there's all of that takes into that you take into consideration. I'm also seeing across the country some builders that are only allowing spec sales. So the builder is starting specs like it's a pre-sale, but then they're not taking any to-be builts, pre-sale, whatever you want to call it, depending on your market at all anywhere, simply because of that, for that pricing perspective. So anyway, I do want to introduce our guest, Brooke Carroll. Brooke is the Vice President of Homes by Dickerson, and Brooke and Homes by Dickerson are with Meredith and myself here in the Raleigh market, and they are a custom home builder in building 300 homes a year. And yes, they are really a custom home builder. So Brooke, thank you so much for coming on Builder Town Hall, and taking your time and sharing some of your knowledge and what you guys are doing at Homes by Dickerson.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I was talking to Meredith a little bit before on the chat before this started, and talking about the year anniversary or birthday for Town Hall. And I said, oh my goodness, I remember the exact moment when COVID hit a year ago, and this Town Hall came up. I was actually on a spring break vacation that we ended up, trying to, are we going to take it? Are we not going to take it? And we did. And I was tuning into this Town Hall. That was the first one when it happened. And I'm like, thank you so much. We have to have somewhere to talk about what's happening. So really been a great asset, I think, for people in the industry. So nice to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a limited time because we want to get lots of other, our other guests up here and share. And what's interesting is everybody's going to have that you're going to hear from today all are handling what's going on a little bit differently. And there are all different reasons of why. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then we'll kind of chat back and forth, and I'll try to keep an eye on Q&A as well at the end, and then try to come back through and sweep through anything. So let's first start out with the info. Like Brooke, I said, obviously you guys are building 300 custom homes a year. You guys jokingly but seriously say you don't build the same house twice. Every home is redrawn to to that customer specifications. So that's a lot of work. So how far, let's first start out with how far out are you guys building right now? Like when a customer comes in the door, let's set the timetable of what's that timeline look for them?
Well, depending on community, but in our out from our furthest community, if they walked in the door today, and they want to purchase today, they're going to close, and this is for a to-be built, and they're going to close in April 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are talking 13-month wait times, right?
Exactly. 13 to sometimes 14-month wait times.
That's right. Okay. So knowing that we're over a year out, somebody comes in the door, I think it has to start with, because we're talking about wait lists and priority and all that kind of stuff. But I think let's start diving in first with like, how are you handling that scenario at Homes by Dickerson? So someone comes in the door, are you taking wait lists? Is it priority? Is it VIP? Is it lottery? Like, what is it you are doing at Homes by Dickerson?
Well, I think this is where, because the nature of our business being custom, it is going to be very different than probably some of the other builders on the panelists that you hear from. So because everything for us is individually priced and individually drawn, the time of working with someone up front is longer. We don't have everything set into a computer system where I can get you pricing really quick, which means if I were to turn off sales and then I turn them back on, it's still going to take longer for us to get people through that conversion process. So it's not as simple for us. So what we really sat down to kind of look at is we have a closing slotted schedule with exactly how much we can take and based on our production staff. And so we sort of look at that out, and it is a first come basis. So really closing time is a part of the urgency of, when you're talking to someone. Now, when you start to move out in some of these communities that far out, it sort of organically slows the process down a bit, right? So we still have a number of inventory homes that we are scheduled to have pepper in and close at different times during the year. So those are an option, as well as, knowing like, hey, if you don't want to wait that long, that's where we are for this. So it's a lot of education and explanation, because people still, even in this market, are completely blown away at like, whoa, I had no idea. And we've had quite a few people that said, I'm sorry, I can't wait that long.
Yeah.
And then they go around and look at other places, and then they came back and said, well, I can't even go to this builder and get under contract. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to get under contract and when they're going to start doing sales. So I'd rather say, hey, I at least know where I'm at, and I can kind of solidify, a date with you guys. So I think it's just going to depend on the buyer a bit from that. But it is a lot of talk and explanations up front, and really, kind of hand holding through this process to kind of, for them to understand it. But it's mind boggling when we talk about how far out, backlog is for.
So you're letting your, essentially the free market itself, but you're controlling your starts on a monthly basis, obviously from a quality control perspective, but
Right.
you're letting the market essentially let the market do what it's going to do. And you're just pushing out that build time and then letting the customers decide, do I want to wait that long or not?
Right. Right.
So in your price point though, so there's going to be some objections like, well, how on earth do I get, like, I mean, if I get a loan today, is it like, what's my rate going to be 14 months from now?
Right. So that's certainly, everyone's a little nervous about, okay, well, when if I close, I want to take advantage of rates, how they are right now, what are they going to be? That's a kind of an unknown. So we worked a lot with our lender partners and figured out programs that people can take advantage of. And so we are writing a tremendous amount of CTP loans. So for those of you not familiar with that, it's construction to perm loans. And a lot of times those used to be almost reserved for kind of build on your own lot type of homes, or something, you buy a big lot, somewhere out. But we are working with our developer partners who are allowing this to happen. And so we're able to say, okay, if that is something that really makes you nervous and it's going to be an inhibitor for you to move forward, then we can look at doing a CTP loan. So you can lock in today. So you would close up front on that, lock in today at today's rate, and then that's going to carry them for 18 months before they had to close. Now our build time's not 18 months, but it would, they would be allowed to kind of go through that. And that has really eased a lot of just that scarcity of the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So that's really good info. Now, we're 13, 14 months out at our peak. What happens, like, how are you guys handling when a lead comes in, right? So you've got Whitney, your OSC, a lead comes in, she said, from the part of at least starting with an appointment to when the customer gets there versus when they go to contract, like, what does that look like? Because you want to set the right expectation. Otherwise it's a mess.
Yeah. I was just talking with Whitney on this earlier, and it is certainly, it's, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I want to understand you're interested in this community. Are you aware, so if you were to purchase today, it's going to be a 13 or 14 month build time. Are you aware of that? And so most of the time they're going to say, no, I was not. So that, it's some education about why it's that far out, because it's not that it's taking that long to build your home. It's that really your home is not going to be fully, we're going to get through a lot of the process, and then it's going to feel like it sort of sits for a bit before it's picked up on the other side, because it's kind of working from closing date backwards on some of the meetings and the process and things through that. And so trying to explain that this is how this process works, because we can only have, for quality control purposes, we can only have so many closings per month, So, and that's going to be a fluid thing. So here's where they are. Obviously, as I set this appointment with your on-site agent, please have that discussion with them, as these things can continue. These slots can be taken up by, if you've got two people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you're setting the expectation. So Whitney talks to the customer. I just want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, before you go out there, we're looking at up to X time out. And so then when they're getting ready to write their contract, well, how do you set the expectation that at that point, I'm going to sit here and nothing's going to happen. Like, what do we do?
And I'm not saying that this is perfect, and I think it's a constant struggle and things that we're continuing to work on. But so we do have a lot of that conversation going up front. We've developed this, what we call, it goes with the contract. It's a buyer acknowledgement form that completely lays out like definitions and exactly from each single phase what's going to happen in what phase. And it will explain to the customer. So, let's say your closing date is here, 7 months prior to that, you will have your first meeting with your pre-con. And so it kind of works backwards. That way it remains accurate on the timeliness. On the front end, though, sales is then working through, okay, I'm gonna, make sure I'm sending you out these touch points during this time frame. Hey, get excited. We're in the middle of working on a video of kind of what to expect in design. Sending out some information from design to our prospects. It's kind of a little bit of homework, right? Like some questionnaires and answers. That way they can get, number one, excited about it, but also kind of understand what their design feel is going to be. And because this is custom, this design center timeframe can be a longer process with that. So trying to kind of give those customer service touch points. And from the production side, we do have, once they have hit that handoff from they get to design and then they get there with their production, the production team is sitting down and they're calling every week. Hey, this is kind of what's going on with your home. We've ordered this. I mean, sometimes it's like nothing may have moved because we are all in working with supply issues and vendor issues and things like that. But it's, this has been ordered. You may not see this. This is kind of what's happening where we're expecting things and so on. So really just trying to keep them as in the know as possible. And I think that's the struggle that we want to make sure that we are working with is sometimes we find out information, but maybe we fail or neglect to get that out to the consumer. And so it's really important right now for them to understand what's happening and why that's happening. And so I feel like we're spending so much more time just on education as things are coming through the pipeline. And, we're hearing about a delay for this, that, or the other. We have moved a lot of our things back to try to get over that hump of delays, since, hey, this is now taking, it used to take 3 weeks on order. Now it's taking 9 weeks. So we're going to make sure we get this selected and ordered way ahead of time. So we're not going to have this, hiccup at closing.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're doing all of that ahead of time, and as we start to, this will be the last normal question, and then I'll tie into some of these other questions that are coming in. But like, so how are you handling pricing? So as you're going that far out, like how the heck are you putting price escalators in your contract? Yeah. Like, how are you handling pricing?
How are we handling pricing, or is pricing handling us? I think that's what we sort of all feel like in this industry. So, pricing's obviously costs are going up, and they're going up insanely, and they're all the time. And so one thing is, because everything is individually priced, when things are coming through from a contract perspective, we are obviously giving it the most accurate price. It's not something that maybe was set into a system and hasn't been updated. So, and we're also trying to foresee, and we're in conversations with vendors all the time on what's coming down the pipeline, what to expect, coming forward. And we're trying to really gauge that as best we can for what's going to come. I'm not saying that it's going to be clear every single time, but we're really trying to sort of stay ahead of that with estimating that. Now, there were some that you started getting hit with some of those lumber prices right at the beginning, and you already had some in backlog, and I think that you just have eroding margins in those particular ones, but you do try to make it up and really stay on top of it. And that's really consistent price increases because we're getting those. I mean, some of our communities are getting them up to 3 times a month, just because that's the way that they're coming in. And so I think the obstacle for us is to keep up with our price increases. Like we haven't, I don't feel like we've really gotten ahead of the cost increases yet. So it's just trying to keep that up. But then, there's also, where do you end up? Way out here in this price pie in the sky, and you're like, wow.
Right.
So,
absolutely. And and Ange, why don't you start coming on as I go through this last question. But so the way that Brooke, the way that you guys are doing it, how, like, what's your can rate? Like how many people are sticking to contracts as they going through? Are you seeing people go under contract and then 3 months later they're and nothing's happened? They're like, I just can't wait. Like, I sold my house, whatever the situation is, I don't want to wait anymore. Like, how's that working?
I looked through, we haven't had a cancellation in 8 months.
Wow, good for you. And I'll tell you, and I think that just to highlight that point, we've been talking about this for a long time, since this started, since the boom. I don't know how many times we've said this. This is all about expectation setting. If you can set the right expectation up front with your customers, and by evidence, Brooke, Carroll, and Homes by Dickerson are doing that. Otherwise, they would not have 0 cancellations over the past 8 months. Setting the right expectation with the customer lets you then meet those expectations, right? If you don't set expectations, the customer is going to create their own. And that is like the dog chasing its tail. You're never going to catch it. And you're never going to be able to live up to something that you have no idea what you're supposed to live up to. So just, I mean, kudos to that right there. I mean, that in itself, sticking 8 months of all those deals sticking to is incredible. And obviously it's a testament to you and your team for setting those right expectations and doing a phenomenal job. So fantastic job.
Great.
Yep. Okay, Ange, it is all yours.
There we go. Thank you. And kudos to you, Brooke. You know, it comes down to trust too, and building that trust, right? That's says a lot about Homes by Dickerson. Hello, Tobin. Thank you for joining today. So everyone over on this side, I don't know which side you're looking at, but I had to bring in another Canadian. I had to. So Tobin Kardish is with EQ Homes and the marketing and product manager just outside of Ottawa, or in Ottawa.
Within Ottawa, in the rural areas, yeah.
So I'm going to just get right to the questions. Can you give the audience just a little bit of information of who you are, what kind of homes you build, and what makes you unique at EQ Homes?
Yeah, of course. So like I like to tell people, you know, the naughty word is we're a production builder, but I like to say for marketing's sake, you know, we bring together people and homes. And currently we're building around 350 homes a year. And we have a range of products from single family homes to stacked, back to back. And in the last 3 years, we've moved into mid-rise concrete condos. And we have currently 6 active communities in and around the Ottawa area. And one of the things I think that really makes us unique is we're relatively young. We're in our 10th year, but we're backed by our development company, which is 60 years running in the Ottawa and has a strong foothold in the market. And what really allows us to stand out is that because we're a younger company, we actually built our own values, brands, and proposition together as a group of managers, and we're able to live by those. And we're able to live by those values, and they kind of bleed through in everything we do in our day-to-day. And it's really helped to establish our brand and who we are within the community. And it just, again, it delivers, allows us to deliver what, back to what Matt said, is we're setting the expectations and we're able to deliver a quality home. We try to avoid words like luxury, things that set the wrong expectations from the beginning. We're delivering you a quality home and a stellar customer experience. So we're always trying to make sure we're in constant communication with our homeowners.
Awesome. Now you shared with me that pre-COVID, your contract to move in was about 12 months, I think. And now it is 18 to 24 months. So Brooke was 13 months and you are almost double that.
Well, yeah, welcome to Canada. And unfortunately, we have to dig, full basements out here. We have winter conditions. So we've always been a little, our timelines have always been a little further out. So, I mean, the biggest thing for all of us is we're front loading. We're front loading everybody from the moment they're registering on our website, setting the expectation of what timelines are going to be like and how the process is going to work. And we now have touch points throughout from the moment you register all the way up to the sale. The only difference now is that we have to spread those touch points out a little bit further, right? So when it used to be 12 months, now we're looking at 18 months to be able to set those expectations for our homeowners. And again, throughout the process, as our homeowners are, whether they're online or they're now in the getting ready for our virtual sales, or they're now writing their deal, again, our employees within EQ Homes are always setting the expectations and repetition, right? This is what's going to happen after this, and here's how it's going to go. We've also set up auto notifications that go out throughout the whole process to explain. And if any delays do happen, we're always on the phone with our homeowners before any delay letters go out. So we always make sure there's a human contact before there's any form of email contact or anything else that goes out to let them know.
Well, that goes a long way, the human touch, right?
Yeah, always. It needs to be. It can't just be letters and emails to homeowners. It's got to be a human touch on the phone to explain. We can't hide behind email.
Oh, absolutely. So the crazy demand of you're seeing an unprecedented number of leads on a weekly,
nuts.
monthly basis.
Yeah,
What are you doing to cope with the volume? I know you've got an OSC in place, but how they can't possibly manage all of those leads.
No, they can't. And honestly, I just had a meeting actually yesterday about this, and we brought another OSC on. So we are now managing it through shifts kind of throughout the day, where they are working with potential homeowners. We're also doing a lot to pre-qualify people prior, right? So we're setting expectations on our registration pages about price points, ranges, and product types. So the OSCs can work with them based on when we're actually going to launch and what we're going to launch. And that's one of the ways we've been able to actually manage those lists. The other thing is I recently actually just decided to cut our digital marketing spend by a little bit, just 10% just to see what happens, because in January alone, we were looking at our month over month from January of 2020 versus January 2021, and we had a 173% increase in registrations. So we went from, I think it was maybe 900 in January, which is typically a slower month in Ottawa because it's cold here. Our climate kind of goes with the weather and our sales cycle. And we went from, I think, to 4,000 people who registered in January for our active communities looking for new homes.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So, and again, there really is no magic way. We're all trying to find a way to keep in contact with these people, but in the same breath, again, we can only give them the information we have right now. So one of the things we're dealing with our OSCs is, why don't we give them the information we have? Tell them a little bit about who we are as a builder, explain the process again behind it, and other aspects that we've used with our business, whether it's Avid or Carry On, and just explain how it works, right? We give them the information we have and we're front loading them.
Are you putting a little more information on your website than you had in the past?
Yeah, I would definitely say we put a lot more information when it comes to stuff like Avid, and again, Carry On, which is a third party. I'm not sure if everyone here has something similar throughout the States, but front loading with all that information has really, really helped us to, again, tell them what's coming down the pipeline. And as well, we're also giving them information about what our virtual sales launch experience would be like. So when we do get to that point, they understand, and we're letting them know the number of lots and homes that we will be releasing prior. So we've gone to smaller releases over the months. And our releases now are not actually based on the season, but they're based on construction starts. So this is the first time I've ever seen a schedule depicted by construction go to sales versus sales saying, this is when we want to sell and this is how much we want to sell. Construction saying, this is when we're going to build it. So this is when you're going to sell it. And this is how many homes we're going to build. And this is how it's going to be. And to be honest with you, it's a good approach right now, because it's, again, allowing us to set the expectation for homeowners so we can meet that expectation for delivery.
Now, one of the questions that is, there's been a number of these questions, Tobin, about lotteries, or how are you managing the volume of requests and prioritizing those leads?
So we set up, in the midst of COVID, we actually set up a virtual sales process. And it's not overly complicated. But one of the things we're doing is we set up emails. They go out 2 weeks prior before a launch, and we set the expectation of how it's going to work. And we lead up to that expectation or that email with an online booking system. And the online booking system is a first come, first serve. The email goes out. Everybody knows when it's going to go out. And on there, we have a limited number of appointments. The moment those appointments book up for the Saturday and Sunday, where we've set up 1 hour time slots, where we have an agent work one-on-one with you, the booking page shuts down, a thank you note goes up, and then we allow people to get onto a pre-waiting list for that.
So a waiting list for the waiting list.
The waiting list for the waiting list, unfortunately. But what's nice about that is someone, I hate to send somebody through another waiting list, but if they do identify that they were interested, if someone does drop off between now and when we go to write the deals on the weekend, we're able to reach out to that person.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a few questions too about what happens when a sale doesn't go through. Have you guys had that situation, and what your process is when
Honestly, the only time we've lost people at this point is again the rising costs in our construction, to be honest, which is now being reflected in our sale price. So sometimes some people are pricing themselves out of certain products, so we go to the backup list. Yeah. And the hard part, I say now, is we've been figuring out is how do we manage pricing on our website. We basically have switched everything to coming soon, or a starting range prior to release, and then we have to take it off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So who owns this process? When we look at, I mean, there's a lot of responsibility on the on-site, with the OSC now. What is that transition from OSC to on-site now?
So prior to kind of the strong demand and switching over to really a virtual business, which we're running right now, absent a couple of people coming in, booking appointments, making sure they're going to the pre-screening, it was the OSC. It was the OSC who would kind of manage that relationship from registration through to booking them into an appointment to meet our agents. It is really hard right now to kind of say who's managing that. It is a little bit of the OSCs and it's a little bit of the salesmen too. I think everybody's trying to chip in because we no longer have a business where people are walking in the front door, right? Everything is online. So we have both our OSCs, again, 2 of them right now, potentially looking to hire on a 3rd to be working on the weekends because we see higher traffic on our website and requests based not on working hours, but on not working hours, right? So 7 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and on the weekends when people actually have time and they're not on Zoom meetings. So it's both right now. I wish I could give you an exact science or map it out, but it's both our online sales consultants who are doing the best they can to manage these leads and making sure they're nurturing them and setting the right expectation, as well as our sales and mins too.
Flexibility comes into play, and culture. I think that comes from the top down, and the leadership that you instill as well with the organization, because I think when everybody is willing to pitch in, they know what is needed. It all somehow works, right?
Yeah.
One of the questions was, what system? I don't think you mentioned this. What's the booking system that you use?
Actually, so we have a great advertising agency. I won't say who they are. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but either way, they came up with their own booking system. We tried to use Calendly, but it was a little too limiting on certain aspects. So we switched over to something that we programmed ourselves. And again, allows us to, at the moment, what's nice about it too is we set the time slots for people to book and the number of appointments to fit into that time slot. If we start to see that certain time slots are filling up faster than others, we can actually switch it from the back end. So as people are registering, it's a live feed for us. The other nice part about it is it's a live feed site plan for the day of. So as the agents are selling on the back end, myself and our sales manager, Melissa Gauthier, can see what's selling, and we're able to actually see if we're going to be raising any prices by small amounts during that point of sale for the next person coming along. So everything is live, built in and programmed. So it's, what I love about it, it's kind of, the days of sitting around the site plan table in the sales center and, if somebody's putting the dot on the board, now it's a virtual, right? So that even the potential homeowners are seeing what's being sold too.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I also, I hope we didn't glaze over this. Your approach with OSCs is fantastic as well. Just there's a staggered approach and a scheduled. You've got one working during the day and one working at night right now. Is that right? Just for clarification.
Yeah, we had to kind of break it up, and then they have an hour in between where they get and they kind of talk about what's going on, and are they, is there any people that they need to follow up with immediately, or is there any appointments they want to book? Right now, we're in the phase of, we're holding off and we have some smaller releases coming in March, April, and May to kind of align with our building schedule. But the OSCs are just doing their best to try to book them in to see our model homes with our sales agents. Because in the midst of all this, we're dealing with COVID restrictions too. So we only allow one family in an hour or 45 minutes into our model homes. Then we have a sanitation come in, clean the space, and then we have another family in. So it is quite a lot. There's a lot going on with not selling right now and getting ready to sell. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got one outstanding question here. If you're able to share this, I think you mentioned, I think it was 173% increase year over year in leads. Is that right? What is that in relation with your sales levels from, so say 2019 to 2020 to now? What increase have you seen
in our sales?
Mm-hmm.
Our actually sales have been steady, to be honest with you. It's only just because of a lack of not having enough to sell, to be honest with you. And again, also just making sure that we're selling within certain timelines, so we're not selling too far in advance, so we don't understand the costs that are going into the box of our house to reflect into our sales.
There we go. Well, thank you, Tobin. I think there may be a couple, if there's more questions, we can certainly answer them offline. And we've got Kerry and Laura. So I will pass the baton over to you two. Thank you.
Here, pass.
There we go. Pass.
Hey, everybody. We just love that we're last. So this is Laura Hanson, and she is with New Tradition Homes, and the company is amazing and she's amazing. And so, and we work rather closely together, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Like there are days I won't even tell you how many times we might talk in a day. So I think that one of the things that we'll also do is some boots on the ground things that's like, this is what we see. This is what our teams are feeling. These are things that we're doing. Feel free to ask us questions, because capping appointments and releases and lottery and all that's in place. But one of the most important things that we thought that we would share today, and then Laura, you can talk about how everybody did with this, is we got lots of salespeople talking about, yeah, but you don't get it because you're front lines, and these people that are waiting and that can't get an appointment and all this, we don't know what to do while they're waiting. And they say things like, I've been, nothing's happening. So what is really happening, Laura, while these people are waiting, thinking nothing's happening?
Yeah, so that's the fine line for us. So while we I think Tobin talked a lot. Tobin's process of what they're doing there is very similar to what we're doing as far as like the lists and the capping of the releases and so forth. And so I don't want to reiterate what he said, because we're actually very, very similar builders, similar everything. But then what do you do with that? How do you help your team understand this so that they can talk to the buyers about what's going on? Because it's a crazy time. We're feeling it, but so are they. And they're people trying to build a home. And I know Kerry and I talked a lot about this in our Builder Show, program too, about humanizing the virtual experience, because we have to remember at the end of the day that although this is busy and we're talking about leads and we're talking about numbers and conversions and all this, these are people trying to build homes, and they have been through COVID just like we have. They're very emotional. Something has brought them to this place where they have made the decision in their home with their husband or wife or spouse or whatever it is that that it's time for them to build a new home. And here they are coming to us with a huge ball of anxiety. And so we have to take a step back and say, thank you for coming here. Where do you fit in this process? We are experiencing an insane amount of demand in our industry like we have not seen ever in most of our, for me, I've been with New Tradition for, it's been like 15 years now. So I've been through the lottery, I've been through the recession, all of that. And here we are in another different time. And how do we convey that to them in an empathetic way so that they understand where we are and where they are in the process?
We feel really, Laura and I both feel really strongly when we talk about the humanizing and peopleology and technology, is that like what we said, they came out for a reason, and their reason was now. But if it's not now, what I think one of our jobs for these people is to steady them in their emotions so that they realize, if not now, when? And what is really happening while they're waiting is they're making a big bunch of equity. So talking about timing when they're on a list is really important, that they realize that don't be short-sighted on 3 months or 6 months or my closing got moved when you're looking at all these years. So I think it's Meredith, as we've talked about journey management. So we're talking about timing, and first and foremost, we wanted everybody to understand that you need to humanize these lists, because if someone just feels like they're on a list, it's painful and they think you don't care. So you don't want to start any process with anybody thinking that you don't care. So they've talked about calendars. So let's talk a little bit, Laura, about how we've come in using Calendly, but from when it was open and not open. And the OSC, Shelly, who's fabulous, shout out to Shelly, how that's happened, how that's helped.
Yeah, so right now, because on top of COVID restrictions, and I think it's pretty similar. Tobin sounds intense. I thought we were the worst, and then he's talking about their restrictions because we're in Washington State, and it's been pretty intense. But we've had to very carefully manage COVID restrictions as far as appointments and how many folks can be in the house at the same time and so forth. And so now what we're doing is, I just think we're way past the time where you don't have an open calendar so that your OSC, I think the message is to reduce the friction in this process for everybody. So where is the friction in this process for your OSC? They don't have time to be calling. Can you meet someone at 4 o'clock? And I have, we can't be doing that anymore. So open calendars. So where your OSC can come in and schedule and see, even if you have, like for us, we have COVID restrictions. So how many folks are in the model at one time? And we have a calendar for that process to say, this is how many people are in at one time, so she can schedule accordingly to our numbers. But just scheduling that, and then being careful for the OSC to what appointments do we need to do right now? What can be kicked down the road a little bit? Don't inundate your sales team with appointments for a community that's maybe not opening until this summer. Whereas before we would have come on in, see the model, and we don't want to do that now. I think we want to kind of be careful on the appointments we're setting and strategic on those, and when, and having the calendar be a part of the process so that the sales team can see that too.
And it made a really big difference in the ebb and flow with the open calendar that you did that, because with the COVID restrictions, I think someone asked about, can they go see a model? Because there's a lot of virtual that goes on, and the answer is yes. And it's with understanding the fact that the scheduling of who's there, who's working. So scheduling, this is the time, you guys, that your CRM is invaluable to you, because the notes that are on that people are looking at in keeping this ebb and flow that we're talking about with both sales and construction working together, that it's really important that it's transparent and everybody can go into, so the OSC can start the notes. Then all of a sudden the salesperson that's going to get it is going to be able to look at the notes, so that we're all prepared to be able to help these people, because really we want to keep them in living their dream, that now is the time, and not get fixated on what's now. Is now 6, 9, 12, 18, 24 months. Now is this market, and we don't know how long the market's going to be. One of the things that we talked about, Laura, as we're talking about like capping sales, and for those of you that are familiar with like Lean Blitz, you'll realize that they work with, I've lost my word on even flow. But one of the things that you need to be really aware of is that how many closings are you allow? So everyone's been talking about sales. So why don't you talk for a second on how you're capitalizing on the even flow part of it so that the closings, you can only close so many houses at once, right? Because there's details to it. There's inspections, there's all sorts of things that come. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so we've internally had a really open dialogue amongst our leadership team to say, what really is our capacity? What can we do? What can we do physically this year as far as how many can we build? And then you reverse engineer it backwards to say, okay, if we can, for us, it's, 350, 400 homes max, so how do we reverse engineer that back and say, okay, then that means X amount of sales per month. And then that's okay. And so that's our capacity because we want to give every single person the same experience, the same wonderful experience that we promise them when we sell them. That's our goal. So our goal is not to sell, our goal is to actually just give everyone the same experience, and everything else follows. And so how do we go backwards and say, okay, so that means in January, we can only do this many, and in February, you can do this many, and that's okay. And so I think we feel, I know for us, like for you want to for our front lines, for our salespeople, we want to defend this. We want to say like, oh my gosh, like this is so uncomfortable. We want to tell them like, we're sorry, our build times are a year out. Quit being sorry. Quit being sorry.
Laura, we tell them all the time, do not defend what you're building. We're building quality, high performance, not fast homes. Not anybody. That's not just new traditions. You're not building fast homes. So helping people to understand that is, I think, really invaluable. And when you just talked on this, and then Tobin had said something about it, but the experience that, because when you get a taste in your mouth, it's really hard if you've got it for a while and then you start building. So I think one of the things that we want to share with people are how we talk about those embedded touch points and the peaks and the valleys. So let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so something that we have been working on this year, even prior to the crazy sales years, is just looking at a time frame and just saying where in and for every builder it's different. So for us, our process looks like this. For you, it might look like this. But where in your process are there peaks? What we call peaks is when a high interaction time with, like when they get to the design studio, when they're writing the contract, when they have interaction with us, they're very excited. But then when are the valleys? Because now our valleys are really long. If we're at a 9-12 month, there's way more valleys than we ever had, where there's nothing for us on our end. There's a lot of things happening. For the buyer, there's not. And they're like, what is going on? There's nothing. I haven't heard from you. Anxiety. And so where do we come in and timeline this out and say, okay, so for the buyer, they're happy here. Here they're not hearing from us. What do we do? And then Tobin talked about, these touch points. And so I think we can even take the touch point, not only from the buying process of the 9 to 11 months, but for the lead process to say, okay, you've joined our VIP list. Cool. What is your touch point for the next 6 months until we can get you actually into the home you want? It might not be this community. It might not be this one. Someday we're going to get you in. And this is why you need to wait. And how can we humanize that process for them?
We've got a minute, and I think that one of the things is that whatever the list is, whatever the number that they are, if they're 1 or they're 20, if their release is 10, whatever it is, how do they feel about getting that number? And if you can't touch all these people, like Laura they sold 65 houses in January. So to say that we're going to do all that, automation, you've got to figure out some automated touch points, because people sitting on a list not knowing, although we'd like them to understand this is how much money you're making while you're waiting, we also want you to know that it doesn't feel good to wait. So understanding that, embed your touch points and make sure that you keep the experience going. So we've got open calendars, we've got CRM, you've got your OSC. It's like Departments Without Borders, everybody's working together. So I think that what we'll do now is we'll bring Meredith back because I'm sure she's got some questions for us. But I do want to thank Laura, and a level head goes a very long way. And she keeps that many days. Might have called me first to get a level head, but ultimately she gets a level head. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to say a huge thank you, and I apologize for my voice. I promise I do not have the Rona. I just have just a hoarse voice today. So I apologize. But yeah, Kerry, isn't it amazing? And Angela and Matt, you guys are welcome to come back in too. Isn't it amazing that Tobin and Laura and Brooke were so just willing to share and like give away all their company secrets? Oh, what is happening right now?
Delivery.
What is happening right now live on? Okay.
Special delivery.
Oh my goodness. It's the, okay, hello.
Not a clown.
Nothing like catching the host off guard.
Thank you, Alan. What is going on?
The
Okay.
three of us cannot thank you enough for, it's been a journey for the four of us. But
Alan, you do really have to take these. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Oh my God, thank you so much. Alan is standing just off camera. Get in the camera. Hi. That's the love of my life, Alan Oliver. And in case you missed the beginning of the show, it is our 1-year anniversary today of Builder Town Hall, and we've been doing it for a year together. So I'm glad I did bring you guys back on camera for this lovely, what is it, Publishers Clearinghouse surprise?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Where's the
All right.
big
You
check,
can
Alan?
thank
Where's
you.
the big check?
Where's the big check? Yeah, he did do that for our anniversary one time. I'll have to tell you guys that story sometime. Oh, thank you guys. That's really nice. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys remember the movie City Slickers.
Oh,
Do you guys remember that movie with Billy Crystal? And Billy Crystal was on this like journey to try to figure out his life, kind of like a midlife crisis. Can anyone relate to this? Right? And he's like doing this. What was he doing? He was on a ranch getaway where he was. Yeah. And so this big cattle ranch guy is trying to teach this city slicker how to herd cattle. And Billy Crystal's really struggling with how to ride a horse, how to camp outside. Like, it is not going well at all. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, you really have to watch it. And so finally they're in the middle of nowhere. Billy Crystal is exhausted. He's thirsty. He's hungry. He's tired. He's irritated. And it's kind of like how you feel right now. Completely exhausted, hungry, irritated, tired, completely wiped out by all these buyers that you have exactly no homes to sell to anyone. And you're like, could be the greatest time of my life if I just had something to sell these people, right? And you're looking for answers, which is why so many of you registered for Town Hall today. And you were looking for that one silver bullet, and all of our amazing guests did the very best they could to give it to you. But there's no one perfect silver bullet, because every single one of you have a different setup. You have a different business model. And that's exactly what Billy Crystal found out, because when the big ranch hand went to give him the secret to a happy life, he looked at me and he goes, do you remember what he said, you guys? What the magic line of the movie was? Does anybody remember?
I remember his name was Curly. I don't remember.
His name was Curly. His name was Curly. And he goes, it's this one thing. And then he like falls off the horse and like dies or something. Before he could tell him what the one thing was, right. Boom. And Billy Crystal's like, dude, no, wait, what's the one thing? Wait, you gotta tell me the one thing, wait, and so we did our best to tell you the one thing to fix your problem today on how to cap sales, how to do lotteries, how to do wait lists. But at the end of the day, you got to figure your one thing out. Now, what I think most of our experts could agree on today is, and what Kerry nailed in her interview with Laura was, if you don't tell your internal folks and train them on whatever your one thing is that fits your business model, it won't matter what you figure out that it is, because if they don't understand it and can't communicate it clearly, don't buy into it, don't get excited about it, how it benefits them, the whole thing ain't gonna work. The other thing I would tell you as leaders is you got to keep it simple. Did you hear how clearly Brooke could articulate exactly what they're doing? Because they know what their plan is. Tobin could tell you exactly, this is what it is. Don't manage and create your processes to the exceptions. Some of you create processes to the exceptions, and it's such a mistake because you're very detail oriented, and I know who you are. I know you people, and I know you because I see you in the chat and I see you in Q&A, and you are creating processes to exception. Stop it. Stop it. Don't you agree, you guys?
You know how many times we've said, like, if we're on an SEO call together, or any of all of us, that don't build your model on a one-off. Like, well,
right. Stop it.
Is that you go chase that. This is not the time to be chasing.
No. This is the time. This is the time to create the most simple, stupid, the Billy Crystal City Slickers, the one big thing, the most simple. Anybody on the team in less than 2 minutes could tell me the process back at me. I can tell it to you. You can tell it to me. And we aren't launching anything until everybody on this team can stand up and repeat the process back to me. Not because I'm trying to micromanage you, and not because I'm trying to drill sergeant you, but until every single one of you can tell me back what the touch points are, when they happen, and what happens next. We are doing anything. So I, as a person that I'm a process person, in case you can't tell. I love a process. I love inventing them. I love creating them. I love designing them. And as somebody who thrives on them, I can just tell you that when you make them too complicated, and people can't sustain them, and they won't. So those are my tips for you as we close it out. None of you are going to be able to repeat exactly what you heard today, but you'll find the right process for you. Make it super simple that it's one thing. You have to sell it internally as the best that you can. Reward the people who are embracing it. Publicly reward them. Love on them. Work privately with the individuals who are not cooperating. Do what needs to be done with those individuals, and you can roll out something that will work for you in this new chapter. Comments, whatever else from you guys?
You know, I think that I'll jump on one, and Angela will probably go yay, because this is really her shtick, and I learned it from her, and now I preach it from the heavens, is that when you went just like that, Meredith, and you said, until they can say it, until they can repeat it, like, I was getting kind of scared. But that this is the time to know your company culture, because you do not have to defend how you build a home.
No, this is the chapter we're in. I put this in the comments for a reason, because I don't want your people to be approaching this from a negative defensive position, because if they do, it will come across that way. We have to all approach this from this is the chapter the world is in, and none of us wants to be here, but we're all here. A year later, here we are. So, we're all just doing the best that we can. And at least we're showing up and we're doing it every day. And we're trying to do it with a smile on our face the best that we can. And we're mostly doing it in pants with no buttons or zippers.
This is true. I won't.
We're mostly doing it in stretchy waistbands, but that's okay. We're doing it. And that's what matters. Angela, Matt, anything from you guys?
Go ahead, Ange.
I'll just say, I just wrote in the chat for those of you, this is purely housekeeping. If you asked a question today, send me your email, because we've got some gift cards to give away, and we don't want to have any left over.
I did notify people in the Q&A.
Oh, I've got emails.
Good, I bet you do. I do.
Free stuff.
I do. So make sure that you've got what did I say? April 6th?
April.
Oh goodness, my brain.
We're already in March.
April 6th, sorry, April 6th for our next event, for our next show. We will see you then. Kerry, Angela, Matt, you guys really carried the burden of today, all the content today. Thank you so much. And thank you to our guests. That's a wrap. The recording will go out tomorrow and be in the Facebook group tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Have a great week.
Great
Bye,
show.
everybody.
Thanks.
You did a great job. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.